you happy to proceed?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
We have enough board members to meet the quorum. Do you just want to proceed?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Right, I'll just read the preamble then. Good morning. All visitors must sign into the visitor book at the entrance to Kilncraigs. This includes council staff from other buildings. There is no planned fire evacuation drill or alarm test today. If the fire alarm is activated during your visit, you must exit the building immediately. The council officers will direct you to the nearest fire exit and will escort visitors to the building fire assembly point beside the Silver Man at the top of Parliament Walk. Kilncraig staff should report to their floor's assembly point. You should remain at your assembly point until directed to re-occupy the building and only re-enter once the fire marshal has advised it is safe to do so. Please do not attempt to leave the site by vehicle until cleared to do so by the fire marshal to ensure access routes are kept clear for emergency vehicles. Please note that this is a public meeting and the members of the public may be in attendance. The meeting will be recorded by the clerk and published online for public viewing. Taking of photographs, including screenshots, audio or video recordings, are not permitted during meetings unless with the express permission of the convener. Can members attending virtually activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video, and can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking? Please do not come in during items unless the chair invites you to do so. If members attending virtually wish to speak on any point, please indicate by clicking on the raise your hand button. Members in the chamber should also raise their hand. The chair will bring you in at an inappropriate time. If members have not been able to access all papers in the meeting, please indicate. We have only got apologies from Councillor McCluckie and Councillor Ayres attending virtually. We've also got Lorna Graham and Lewis Barn both attending virtually.
Councillor Keogh has also indicated that he may not be in attendance today.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you this morning, but yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you this morning, but unfortunately, I couldn't get a taxi. It's impossible. Anyway, we've dealt with the apologies. Are there any declarations of interest? I see no declarations. Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of May? Page 3. Page 4. Okay. That's accepted. Item 4. I'm going to suggest that we deal. I'm going to suggest that we deal with. I'm sorry, I'm getting some interruptions here. I'm going to suggest that we deal with items 4, 1 to 5 on block, since they are essentially the changes are exactly the same for each and every one of the applications. Paul.
Good morning, convener, members of the licensing board, and good morning to the solicitor representing the co-op, who I believe is attending the hearing virtually. The board will have a time to read my representation. You'll see that I too have chosen to submit a single representation grouping together 5 very similar applications. The applications seek to add home delivery of alcohol and groceries to the operating plans of the 5 co-op premises that are located within Clackmannanshire. In addition to that, 4 of the applications seek to add recorded background music to a list of approved activities. Obviously, I have no concerns whatsoever about this aspect of any of the applications that seek this addition. It's fairly common in supermarkets and shops that background music is played and certainly has no influence in the sale of alcohol. The recently published Statement of Licensing Policy for Clackmannanshire Licensing Board 2023 to 2028 includes mention that all premises seeking to make home deliveries of alcohol must have this specified in their operating plan. number of larger and smaller operators have now picked up on this policy amendment and have begun making application to us to include home delivery as the home delivery aspect of their business grows. The policy goes on to indicate that home delivery alcohol should be robustly managed and is likely to attract local conditions. The content of my report was of course shared with the applicant well in advance of this hearing. As far as I'm aware, there's no written concerns being raised about any of the conditions that I have proposed, and I'm sure they will address the board in relation to any concerns that have come up more recently. I have no concerns about the application. There's no real concerns about home delivery where it is robustly managed, and in this case I have drafted a set of proposed conditions for the benefit of the licensing board that I believe would adequately address the common concerns that surround home delivery of alcohol. Those concerns are sales deliveries being made to underage persons or to persons who are drunk or at serious risk of harm from drinking alcohol, and deliveries being made by untrained individuals or by couriers that do not have a robust age verification measures in place. These are all matters that I have identified as occurring prior to us requiring home delivery to be included in the operating plan. I've unfortunately, due to annual leave, not had the opportunity that I would normally take to discuss the possibility of these conditions and the nature of the suggested conditions with the applicant's legal agent, and I'll apologise in advance to the legal agent for that, but I was on leave at the time where I would normally have that discussion prior to the board hearing. However, I have no concerns about the operation of the co-op businesses in Clackmannanshire. They historically have been relatively well-run premises with very few compliance issues, and I would have no concerns if the licensing board choose to grant these variations, subject of course to the conditions mentioned in Appendix A, and I'm happy to answer any questions about my representation of those questions or those conditions.
Members, do we have any questions? I see no indication. Can we put you on to Mr. Lewis Barron, please?
Sorry, I'm just going to come in. Just a quick question, if that's okay. It's just in relation to the conditions and condition 6 within Appendix A. It's more perhaps for my ignorance, but just, you know, it would be quite helpful just to have a wee understanding of the training that is in place. I'm just thinking about, you know, staff delivering alcohol to potentially somebody that could be drunk, as is outlined. What type of training is in place for staff, not necessarily just in relation to you know, someone that potentially is under the influence of drink, and then there's a decision to be made, but also, you know, the implications of maybe turning that person down and what could happen on the back of that if they deem that person too drunk. So just a little bit of an understanding on what the training is that is in place for staff in that position. I think just would be probably helpful for me, but I don't know if helpful for others. So I don't know if that's co-op or a mix of others to explain that. That would be helpful. Thanks.
Yep. Paul?
Probably answer that best from the council's or from my, as the licensing standards officer's expectation point of view. I'm sure the co-op will also answer the question in relation to what they actually have in place. My expectation would certainly be that anybody involved in the delivery of alcohol subject to these conditions would have went through at least a minimum of the 2 hours, an equivalent of the 2 hours of staff training that every person authorised to make sales or delivery of alcohol or service of alcohol on licensed premises has been subject to. That includes an element of recognising and understanding drunkenness, and it also includes an element of conflict management, and it includes an element of how to standards of service in terms of refusal of service as well. I know from experience that the well-organised and compliant delivery platforms, and I won't specifically name any of the names, but we know who they all are, the sort of better known ones, they all have policies in place about service refusal and not leaving alcohol at inappropriate locations and inappropriate addresses or with inappropriate people. They seem to be quite well versed on that. I've spoken to 2 or 3 of them directly, and as part of a wider sort of group that I'm involved in, and they seem to be quite well versed on that. The difficulty comes, and I think it's probably what you're touching on, the difficulty comes when it's independent delivery organisations such as your local taxi driver or your local guy who just uses his car on a Friday night to deliver takeaways and anything else he can get paid for delivering, who may well not meet the standards required by these conditions, but I feel relatively certain that that won't be a route that the co-op would go down, and I'm sure that they'll express that themselves. But yeah, the training that is there, the legislative background for the training is you know, it's okay for something that's now a long time out of date already, but it's okay.
Chair, Councillor Seeley has a question.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to ask our licensing officer whether these conditions are your standard conditions for normal alcohol delivery, and just a follow-up question to the co-op solicitor, given that you haven't had a chance to discuss these, to ask her whether she's happy with these conditions or any concerns.
Yes, Councillor, these are becoming pretty standard conditions. I know during the licensing board's policy review, we discussed at length the types of conditions that may well be applied to home delivery, and these are from a table of conditions that I had drawn with, you know, obviously any slight adjustments that are needed for individual cases, as we should address these matters individually, but they broadly tick a box of becoming standard conditions that I would hope that the board would apply to all home deliveries.
And the follow-up question is really to the co-op solicitor, whether they...
Yes, so Basili, we'll wait until Mr. Barnes has a chance to address the board, and then we can ask questions of him.
Okay, that's grand, thank you.
Was there no other questions? Mr. Barnes.
Yes, good morning, Your Honours. Thank you for arranging to hear these applications today. Before I continue, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you very much. So, well, as we've heard, these are 5 major variation applications, all of which are to add home deliveries into these operating plans. Just by way of background, the co-op are already successfully operating home deliveries from, I think it's well over 100 stores in Scotland now, and several hundred if we include the rest of the UK. And these applications, it's just to allow them to run an identical service from the stores in Clackmannanshire, all in line with the new statement of licensing policy, of course. It should hopefully go without saying that co-op take their obligations under the licensing legislation extremely seriously, and they already have robust measures in place in respect of deliveries of alcohol, as you would expect. Challenge 25 is the age verification policy, and that is enforced strictly at the point of delivery. And just to perhaps touch on a point that was raised in the chamber there, alcohol is only ever delivered directly to a person. It's never left unattended. For example, if a customer was to say, you know, if I'm not home, please leave it at the rear of my house, that certainly wouldn't happen with alcohol, and that just isn't a possibility. It's always delivered to a named person who is of age. Over and above that, I can confirm that, as you would hope, all members involved in the delivery of alcohol have undergone the mandatory 2 hours of training, and that also extends to delivery drivers employed directly by the co-op. Part of that training does include recognising the signs of drunkenness and conflict management that may arise from that. Just to touch on one of the points raised in the chamber regarding that conflict management side of matters, you may think, you know, if you refuse a sale to someone who is drunk, that could potentially become an altercation. but co-op management and co-op delivery drivers are trained in how to deal with that, how to politely refuse a sale and not escalate a situation. And should the worst comes to worst, there are reporting mechanisms in place, both sending information back to co-op and, if required, the police if things do get out of hand in the absolute worst case scenario. So hopefully that should give the board members a feel for how co-op manage these deliveries as a well-regarded operator. Now, just to touch on the conditions in the LSO report, Your Honours will hopefully be glad to hear that the conditions that are due to be attached, they already broadly reflect the arrangements that the co-op have in place at other premises throughout Scotland and the UK, and there is certainly nothing in here that they wouldn't be able to comply with, so I can confirm acceptance of those conditions just now. So hopefully that should be one less matter of concern there. Over and above that, I do understand that there have been no objections or adverse representations during the application period. So I would certainly move for a grant of the applications on that basis. But of course, if any of the members do have any further questions about the applications as a whole or an individual application, I will be more than happy to answer that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Basili.
No, I think the solicitor on behalf of the co-op covered the questions in his response there, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm sorry for getting me sex earlier. It's my site. I thought I said Leanne in the initial screen. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? I see no indication. Okay, well, having looked at the applications, I would certainly move that we accept the applications in paragraphs 4, 1 to 5. I have no problem with accepting this. I see that there is a robust policy in place, and I'm aware that there may well be questions about the actual practice of delivery from other agencies or other agents. But we are here to discuss the cooperative's applications here this morning. And as I say, I have no objections. Can I have a seconder, please?
Chair, I'm happy to second with the conditions provided by a licensing officer. Thank you.
Okay. Is that accepted by all? That's granted, Mr. Byrne.
Thank you very much, Your Honours. Have a good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 4.6 on your agenda. This is an application for a non-minor variation at the inn in Muckert Hall.
Yes, good morning, Chair. Just to make the licence board aware that Lorna Graham of one of the licence holders of the Inn at Muckert is present in the call as well.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Bear with me a second. I have this. We've been familiar with this before. That my screen is one of the slowest to scroll. Yes, thank you. So it's an application for a non-minor variation. And the content of the application form is there for the licensing board to examine. I think I could shorten the content of my report by skipping straight to paragraph 9 and explaining that I have no concerns about the impact on the licensing objectives of any of the variations. The premises, as far as my involvement with them over the last 16 or 17 years, is that they cause no compliance issues, there's no complaints about the premises, and they appear to be very well managed. Again, as always, happy to answer any questions that may arise from the content of the application or my representation.
Do members have any questions?
I've not got any question apart from, I just thought, suppose it's a question. Do we not usually get given the map of the with these, or oh wait, yeah, if I
They are a bit larger than I can scan, so I've got them here if anyone wants a look at it.
no, I was just when I was like, we normally get the kind of the plans that was like in my thing.
We do have the plans if you would like to examine.
Would it be helpful if I come and explain the content to you? So, as you're looking at the premises, that's the main entrance, with a lounge bar area and a separate lounge. This is the new function suite here. Previously was the outdoor drinking area, the licensed outdoor drinking area, and so I don't know if you're familiar with the premises that you recognise them. So this has now been covered over very nicely and decorated, glass doors on the corner to create this function and extension of the restaurant, whatever purpose they choose to use it. And this area is the new beer garden, which takes over a small portion of what was previously the large car park that they own. It may well not immediately come into play, my understanding from the applicant, I'm sure she explained that, but at the end of the day, they're seeking to license that as a permanent beer garden. And a previous error that we're correcting, there's a reference to a previous error in the application, is effectively 2008, when the application process was done, these chalets were supposed to be included in as part of the licensed area, and it would appear that there's been an error made in doing that. It's not caused anybody any disadvantage, but it's an error that needs to be rectified now, more so because of the introduction of short-term licensing. If they're part of the licensed area, they would require to be separately licensed. So it's now important that we do correct it for the applicant. But if there's any questions coming from that, I'm happy to help.
No, that was it. It was more just usually we have that, and just because obviously the mention of the chalets and whatnot, I kind of want to see that visual. So
they're all part of the same structure, right, as you can see.
Okay, no, I'm happy with that. Anything else? Is there anything to add?
Are there any other members got any questions for Paul? No, I see no indication. Lorna, would you like to address the board?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Again, very simple application. Paul has provided the information required. If members are quite happy, I'm quite happy with the application, and I'm quite happy to move it. Can I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, Chair, with the conditions recommended by our licensing officer.
Members, are we all happy with the application?
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. That's it. The application is granted. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attendance this morning. Once again, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you. You can stop the recording now.
Thank you, Chair.